Hello and welcome to Author Hour. I am your host, Richard Lyntton, author of North Korea Deception and Hyde Park Deception, and coming soon, Leningrad Deception, which is now available on Kindle Vella. Today, I would like to welcome local author Brian Storm. Brian is a recovering heroin addict who turned his life around and wrote a memoir about it called The Struggle 10 years later. He currently works as a library assistant at the Free Library of Philadelphia and has a passion for helping animals. Welcome, Brian.
Thank you very much, Richard. It's a pleasure to be here.
Man. Amazing, amazing. I mean, I always have all these questions, but I always like to see what happens when I open my mouth, as it were. I'm drawn to that first chapter in your book, and you sort of take the reader right into it, where you literally have a plan A and a plan B that you want to take your own life.
Yes.
And so just talk to me about that plan A. Like, you literally had the concoction, and I have to say I know very little about substance abuse, drugs, so some of my questions might be a little bit simplistic, but take us through that. Like, you literally had this planned concoction that you thought would end it all.
Yes, I basically wanted to do every drug I've ever done in my life and go out with like a big bang, just so I could feel them all at once. I figured with the uppers and the downers and hallucinogens and everything mixed together, I thought my heart would just stop and explode and end it all. And it would just look like an overdose. You know what I mean? Because I didn't want anyone to know that I killed myself on purpose.
Oh, you didn't? So what did you want them to think?
I wanted them to think it was just an overdose, accidental overdose, you know? And that was plan A.
Right. So and around that, was there something around that time? Because I just have to say, it's just, for me, it's incredibly courageous to really want to take people and share that with people, and in the detail that you have done. And you share many things in the book, but I mean, I'm just going to pick on that because it's at the beginning of the book, and I don't want to spoil the book for people. But so what was it around that time? And obviously, we're talking many years of suffering and substance abuse. But what was it about at that time that made you sort of pull the trigger, as it were?
It was a very low point in my life, obviously.
Right.
I was hooked on heroin. I couldn't stop. I tried everything to stop, and I just couldn't do it.
Right.
A couple weeks prior to that, I overdosed on Christmas Eve.
Right.
And I woke up Christmas Day in the morning on the sidewalk in Kensington. And a fire truck woke me up, and I had all the Christmas gifts I bought the night before for my family. They were all stolen. I had to go home and tell my brother. And at the time I was living with my brother, and I was stealing from him, and I felt ashamed, and I just didn't love myself anymore, and I felt like no one else loved me either. Even though that's the farthest thing from the truth. My family absolutely loved me.
Right.
But at the time I felt like they didn't, I felt like they were ashamed of me, and I couldn't go on living anymore.
So that feeling, and I have to say my wife's family has had 2 deaths to do with substance abuse. Yeah, I mean, this was kind of before I knew her, but so it is so close to many people's homes, and many people sort of think they're normal, but they have these issues in the family. I mean, what did it feel like? Can you help describe? I guess because I'm just a writer and I always like to know this kind of detail, but what is the feeling? Can you equate that desperate feeling to anything? Can you just describe that a little bit more? Is your head pinging? Is your heart pounding? Are you feeling sick? What brings you to that very moment?
It's like this little voice in your head telling you, just go out and get a bag. Just go out. Just go out.
I mean, and I'm talking about that moment where you wanted to kill yourself.
Oh, I thought you meant addiction.
No,
I'm sorry.
No. So that moment, I'm just very curious.
That moment, I couldn't even tell you. It was just like...
Is it a blur?
It's not so much a blur. It's I felt like that was the easier way. Because addiction is so hard, so difficult, just getting up in the morning, just going I felt like I was living like $10 at a time, you know, and I had to wake up every day, I had to steal $10, I had to go do this, go do that, and and I felt like I was living for nothing. Like,
right.
I literally felt like a zombie.
Right.
Just, there was no point to my life, and I thought I would be better off dead.
Where were you living at the time?
At that time, I was at the basketball courts I used to hang at as a teenager.
But you were living there?
Oh, no.
I mean, like, where did you actually live?
I was living with my brother at the time, but it was right down the street from
And
there.
did he know what you were going through?
No, he knew I was on drugs, but he didn't know I was on heroin. He didn't know I was that far into it. So, no, he really didn't have a clue.
Wow. And then so basically you try and you fail to take your own life. And then you figure, well, I may as well just sit on the train track, right?
Yes.
So take me through that. I mean, like, it was a live rail line, and so, you know, again, like, what happened? You just went and sat cross-legged on the middle of the track?
Yeah.
Did you close your eyes? Did you pray? What happened then?
I wouldn't call it praying. I was talking to God, but I was more cursing him than anything, you know. I was angry and depressed at the same time, you know, and yeah, I just walked to the train track because I figured, you know what, I'm gonna die one way or another. The drugs didn't do it. I'm gonna find another way, and that's what I did. I walked there and I just waited and screamed. Did you
literally?
Sky
were you like standing, or were you sitting down?
No, I was sitting down. I was way too intoxicated to stand, so
right.
like I was just sitting down in the middle of the tracks, just waiting.
Do you remember exactly where it was?
Yeah, it was right down the street from the basketball courts where I tried to do all the drugs to kill myself. It was literally like 50 yards away, 100 yards away. It was like right there.
Did you think about the aftermath? Like what it would be like? Did you think about the aftermath or not at all?
No.
You just didn't really care about that?
Looking back on it now, yes, my family would have been devastated. But at the time, I wasn't thinking that at all. I was just thinking, this is the way to end my suffering.
Wow.
That was really what I was thinking.
Right. Because like, to meet you, and I'm sure other people have said this, but you kind of seem like a really upbeat, sort of bubbly kind of guy, to be honest. Now. And you got a smile and you got a sense of humor. And so, like, I mean, describe the transformation and what it feels like to this new you. Can you try and put that into words?
Yes. It felt like I was living a bad dream, and I just woke up one day.
One day?
Yeah, it was like I was in a nightmare. Like, well, I mean, it happened in one day. It took a long time to get there, but it just feels like I was living a nightmare. And
just going back to that one, I did want to cover that moment as well when you say the one day, because you had a call. Like, what got you off the train tracks?
Oh, yes.
Was the call from an ex-girlfriend who you sort of still loved, right?
At the time, yes.
And so, tell me about that call. Do you remember what she said?
I don't remember, really. Like, it was, not only was it so long ago, but
it was like 15 years ago now, right?
Yeah, something like.
Yeah,
I have 13 years clean and sober now, so it was probably about 14 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you just remember getting this. So when you got the call, did you sort of get up and walk away from the tracks as you were talking to her?
Yeah. I talked to her. I remember I talked to her for a couple minutes.
Just a couple of minutes.
And I remember she must have said something that made me change my mind, because I was like, okay. And that's when I got up and...
So you said, so in other words, did you tell her what you were doing there on the tracks?
That I do remember. I told her, yeah. I was like, I'm done. I can't do this no more.
And she said, like, just get up. She must have said something that made you...
Yeah, I don't remember exactly what she said, but she must have said something to change my mind, you know?
So you literally got up off the track while you were talking to her, moved away from the train track. And then what was it, like 60 seconds later?
60 seconds later, I heard a train speed by as fast as possible. I was like...
Giving me chills.
Wow. Yeah.
Giving me chills.
It gave me chills at the time. I looked up at the sky and I was like... And at that moment, I was like, okay, maybe God is real. You know what I mean? Like, I felt like my life was saved even at that moment. I felt like, wow, like, what did I almost just do, you know?
Did you believe in God before then?
I believed in God. I didn't really pray. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't go to church.
So you were an Irish Catholic family?
Yes.
So you grew up in a religious sort of...
Yeah, I went to Catholic school. You know, I was an altar boy at one time.
Wow.
You know, believe it or not.
Wow.
But yeah, so I've always had that belief, but... I wasn't practicing at that time, obviously.
So at that moment, you literally physically looked up at the sky and you sort of said, maybe there's a reason to go on.
Yeah.
Wow.
Absolutely.
And then what happened then? Like what were the steps that you took to sort of, I presume you sort of went into some sort of, rehab or recovery, or just describe briefly then what happened so that we understand.
I tried to. I went home. I wrote a letter to my brother and told him what was going on. Told him I was hooked on heroin. I tried to kill myself.
So you wrote a letter rather than sort of waiting to talk to him?
Yeah, I couldn't
to get it out.
I couldn't find the courage to actually talk to him, so I wrote a letter about it, and I told him I was even stealing from him because I was at the time, and he told me I have two options: I can either go to rehab or get out of his house. So the option was easy.
After he'd read the letter?
Yeah, after he read the letter, yes.
Did you talk to each other after he'd read the letter?
Yes, and that's what he told me. He told me.
Okay, and so he said, "Okay, I get it, but here's the thing: you either go, and then how easy is that? Because I always wonder, like when you hear, you see in the movies and TV, and people go to, like, how easy is to find a place, to get to a place, to sign up?
It's not like, okay, it's easy. You could walk into a place and try to go, but 9 out of 10 times they're not going to have a bed for you available. You're going to have to wait. Wow. They're going to tell you, come back tomorrow.
So it's literally you physically have to stay there. It's not like, I was thinking it was like a group you go to. That's, I presume, later.
That's like 12-step programs.
Okay.
Yes.
We'll get onto that. I do want to ask you about it because that's fascinating too.
Sure.
But so tell me then, like is this something that's covered on, health insurance? Like
a lot of welfare insurance, a lot of regular insurance will cover rehabs too. But it's difficult getting into them sometimes because you might get lucky and find a bed, but a lot of times they'll tell you try back tomorrow, or they'll be like, okay, we have a bed opening up on Tuesday. Wow. You got to come back.
And is this like in Philly, or is this like could be 50 miles from Philly? Could it be anywhere?
I can't speak for experience outside of Philadelphia, but I know here in Philly, that's how it is. It might be
there
different
many
in other
of these places? Are there many?
Yeah, there's a good amount, but like I said, they have limited beds available, and that's the problem with addicts too. Because when an addict wants help, they have to get in somewhere right away. You tell them, "Oh, come back next Wednesday." By next Wednesday, they're gonna be like, I'm not that bad. I don't need help.
They could be dead.
They could be dead.
Or they could change their mind.
Or they might have a bag of dope in their pocket, but like, I don't really need rehab. You don't need it no more all of a sudden,
Wow.
Yeah.
So what did happen with you? Did you find a place? How did you find a place?
Well, I was on a methadone clinic at the time, so that made my situation a little complicated. But they were working with me, and I was able to get one, but I had to wait 2 weeks to get in.
So you were already on a methadone clinic, which means what? You go daily to get your methadone.
Yeah,
and that helps you with the heroin addict. Heroin addiction.
Exactly. Yeah, it
so
helps
you're
you
already
not
on
get
that.
sick.
So then, how does that work? If you're physically in a rehab place and then you're on like, how does that work? Do they give you the methadone that you need?
No. If you go to a regular rehab, you'll get off the methadone.
Everything.
That's the point. Yeah, because for me, I can't speak for everyone, but for me, the methadone wasn't working. Okay, and I know for a lot of people it doesn't work. So I had to get off methadone completely and go into the regular rehab. But the insurance companies were kind of fighting me on that, but I fought back a little more, and they told me that they could find me a bed, but I had to wait 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
But in that 2 week time, I ended up stealing from my brother again, and he kicked me out.
Wow.
But I'm so glad he did because...
So then what? He kicks you out, and then how many days till you got the bed space? That you
I don't know exactly. Probably about a week.
Were you like, what did you do? You were like homeless for a week?
I was staying on one friend's couch, staying on another friend's couch.
So you weren't literally living in the street. You had people
Well, there were 1 or 2 nights where I had to sleep on like the park bench and stuff. Wow. But for the most part, I stayed at people's houses though.
What time of year was that?
It was in the middle of the winter. It was like probably like February, January, somewhere around there.
But even though you sort of already hit rock bottom, you're still at rock bottom, and you have this, like, what was it that made you keep going?
I don't know. I can't really describe
Would you attribute like a higher power? I mean, does it get to that kind of level? It's a godly power, or a unit, whatever people's. Well, you tell me.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was that, but at the time I didn't believe that so much. But like looking back on it now, yeah, absolutely. But I think part of it was I was just sick and tired of like just living the way I was living.
Right.
And I looked at it like, okay, well, if death is no longer an option,
Right.
then I have to try something else, you know, and that's it. So that's what.
So you
really
went to
drove
the
me.
rehab.
Well, I didn't make it to the rehab.
You didn't?
I made it to the detox.
Okay.
Where they basically detox you from the drugs. You know, they'll give you like 30 milligrams of methadone, then 25, and then 20 the next day, and then 15 until you're 0, and then you go to the rehab.
Oh, okay. Wow.
But while I was there, I met a girl, and we decided we were going to keep each other clean, and we didn't need rehab.
Okay.
Which was the stupidest mistake.
Well, I imagine that's a very common thing in rehab, right?
It is, yeah. They call it rehab love.
So what happened then?
We basically moved into her
left.
brother's house.
All right.
You know,
Her brother's house?
Yeah, for like a month or two. Then moved into her other
But
brother's house.
were you off the drugs? Did it work for a bit?
Yes and no. At first, we weren't doing heroin, but we thought we could still smoke. We thought we could still drink. We thought we could still pop a pill here and there.
Yeah.
And, you know, just like how my life originally led up to the heroin,
Yeah.
the same thing happened again, except for this time it happened in like 2-3 weeks. You know, it didn't take years for me to get to that point anymore. And yeah, then next thing I know, I'm living homeless on the streets, and yeah, it was a mess.
So then what happened? Like, you haven't got any money, presumably. Do you have to steal?
Yeah, well, I was stealing, you know, at that point, when I was living homeless on the streets, I started selling needles down at Kensington and Somerset Street.
Selling needles.
Yeah.
So what do? You
man.
go to CVS, buy some needles, and then go and sell them, kind of?
No, there's needle exchange programs
Right.
where they would give you needles for free. They give them out to heroin to try to prevent the HIV spread
Right,
and stuff,
right.
because people reuse needles. So they'll give you a whole bunch of needles, and what I did was I would just go out to the corner and sell them for $1 a piece. Wow. And it, you know, there'll be like 30 people down there doing this. So you couldn't make much money, but it kept me from getting sick.
So you went to get your free needles. Set of
Yes.
works.
Set of works, yes, they call them.
So they give you that, and then or you get like $1 for one needle, is it?
Yes.
So because that was what that was one of my questions. Like, you know, just I don't know, that struck me. Like, you you know, you can't just go to I guess I was surprised that you buy your drugs from a dealer, but then you still need to go somewhere else and get your needle.
Yes. Yeah.
And that's because basically what people simply haven't even got the money to go to a CVS or pharmacy and get needles, or they're not readily available.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I never heard of anyone going to. I guess like diabetics and stuff will do that, obviously. But like,
but I guess it just struck me as like, oh, you got your drugs, and then now you still got another problem just to have to find the needles.
Yeah.
But that's the way it works.
that's the way it is. Yeah.
That's the way it is.
Yeah.
Wow, that's crazy. Tell me about the writing. So let's I do want to get onto the writing, because you mention writing a letter to your brother. You also mention you wrote a letter to your mum, your deceased mum at one point, and you put a letter on her graveside. So writing is obviously, you know, an important part of your life.
Yes.
So just tell us a little bit about, you know, when you did start writing. You know, was it as a child? Was it as a teenager? Was it, because I know you're a rapper as well,
Yes.
right? So just tell us a little bit how, you know, the writing journey.
That's it started with hip hop.
Okay.
It did.
Aged about
9-10 years old.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Weird Al Yankovic was very popular back then.
Okay. I have no idea who that is. But
he writes parody songs
Okay.
to like famous. He writes a lot of stuff. And basically, I was listening to hip hop at the same time.
Okay.
So I decided to write a parody to a hip hop song that I liked, and it was called "Nothing But a Big Mac."
Right.
And it was all about McDonald's cheeseburgers and stuff. Yeah. And yeah, I loved it. I just loved piecing the words together. So I wrote another one, and then another one, then another. And before I know it, I'm writing rhymes. I'm carrying notebooks around me everywhere I go, and I just fell in love with writing.
How did people sort of view that or treat you when you were doing that? Because wasn't it like a black art, as it were, in those days?
Yes.
That was before Eminem, right?
That was before Eminem, way before Eminem. Yeah, I got ridiculed a lot. You know, a lot of people made fun of me. But I didn't care. I liked doing it, you know, so I just kept doing it.
So when you say people ridiculed you and people made fun of you, so you wouldn't say that because it was your passion, the ridicule honestly didn't really bother you that much?
No, it made me push a little harder.
Okay.
It made me write even more because I had it in my mind that I was going to prove them wrong and become Eminem one day, even though he wasn't out yet, but that's what I wanted to become, you know.
And so you started writing the songs, and then, I mean, did you still do that, or did that sort of peter out?
It kind of died down a couple of years ago after I got clean and sober. I tried to do some open mic shows and stuff like that, but they were always at bars, and they were always in crowds where people were smoking weed. And
so what, you get up and you just start rapping?
Yeah. You bring your beat, you know, you get on the stage, give the DJ your beat, and he'll play it. But yeah, I couldn't do it because it was around drugs and alcohol, and I was like, you know what? I had to choose either hip hop or sobriety. I had to choose sobriety, you know.
So as an artist, you found that it was almost impossible to sort of be a sober artist in that way?
Yes.
I mean, would you say that's true of most of the guys who do that kind of stuff?
No, because there are sober artists out there, but I feel like they probably didn't get recognized while they were sober. Right. They like Eminem, for example. He's in recovery for as far as I know. Now he's still in recovery. But he wasn't in recovery when he made it big. Right. You know, he got big and famous and was doing all that stuff while he was on drugs. And then he got clean and sober. So yeah, so it might be a little different for him, but
anyway, tell me about the writing. So you started the writing. So was you know, telling your memoir, as it were, was that the first thing you wrote?
Yes, I wrote that when I had about 2 years clean and sober. I didn't know.
In diary format, or like, how did you do it, on a laptop?
Yeah, I wrote it on a laptop. Just, you know, I wrote one chapter at a time. Yeah. You know, that's what I did. I came home every night, wrote one chapter. Next night, wrote next chapter. And that's just how I did it. And I didn't know much about writing back then.
Right. How many chapters roughly?
It was about 40 chapters.
40, right. Yeah. And did you have those 40 chapters mapped out in advance, or did you sort of write as you go, like chronological order almost?
No, yeah, I just kind of wrote as I went. Okay. You know, I didn't really do any planning. Like I said, I didn't know much about writing back then. You know, so what I did was I ran it through Microsoft Spell Check and thought it was cool, and I sent it out to self-publish. And a lot of people wrote back like, "Hey, you know, you're missing a word here. You're missing a word there." And
so that was self-publishing on Amazon?
Yes. Yeah.
So this was what, 10 years ago?
Yeah, that was 10 years ago. Yeah.
Okay. So just tell us about the name, the struggle 10 years later. So is that why it's called 10 years later?
Exactly.
So just talk to us about how you decided to sort of revamp it, as it were.
Well, when people started giving me feedback about the mistakes in the original one, I kept telling myself, "Oh, I got to rewrite it, fix all those mistakes." Yeah. But then life kind of got in the way. You know, I got married, and you know, I got a job at the librry, and so I was. Did
your wife read the book?
She did.
The original?
Yes.
What did she think of it?
She liked it. She told me that when I first gave it, she's like, "Oh, I got to read this all, so I know all your secrets."
Right. Exactly. Uh-huh. And then, so did she agree that you should sort of, you know, re-edit or, you know, do a second version?
No, she didn't really say anything about that, but that was just something I wanted to do on my own. Right. Yeah.
So then, I mean, what do you think? So then, you how long did it take you to do this? You know, when you started the second version, as it were.
All in all, about 2 years. 2 years. Because I started out very slowly. Wow. I started out just making little changes, and then when I got about halfway through, I started realizing, you know, a lot of things have happened in the past 10 years. Yeah. So I have to write about all that now too, you know?
Great.
So, and also I took some college courses on writing. So I knew a lot more about writing. So I had to it wasn't just fixing the mistakes. It was a complete rewrite, you know? I had to pretty much start from scratch.
Did you read a lot of other people's similar topics, or you didn't?
No. Up until about a year ago, I was not really a big reader. Mm-hmm. And that's weird because I work at the libraries for like the past 7 years. Right. But yeah, I haven't really read a lot of books up until about a year ago.
Right.
I started,
I mean, that's a pretty big admission for a writer.
Yeah, I know.
Because I think your writing's great, and I wouldn't have known that. But that's a really interesting idea. So why do you how does that happen? Because it's actually funny. I have all these books that I need to read on my shelf, and I'm like, I just want to write. I want to write, and I find it. I listen to books a lot more than I read them.
Yes,
because it's like you can do it when you're walking and in the car. But why do you think that is that you just didn't read that much, and yet you wanted to write? Because people always think of the two go together. Yeah,
no, not for me. I wanted to get my story out there just so I can help people.
Right.
That's why I wrote the first one, to help addicts.
Right.
You know, kind of relate and give them a little hope that if this guy can get clean and sober, maybe I can get clean and sober. But,
so that was your sort of main goal, is to just help others and to see that you can get over the hump, as it were.
Absolutely.
So are you like, and again, you don't have to answer this, but so are you like totally clean now? Do you don't drink alcohol?
Nope.
Like you can't do any kind of substance because it'll just mess you up?
Nope. Right. I mean, I might be able to, but I mean, I can also probably drive with my feet. Doesn't make it a good idea.
Right.
You know?
Do you, so like on Christmas or a celebration, are you like tempted to just say, oh, I'll just have one glass of wine, or I'll have a joint or something?
Not really. I mean, once in a while the thought pops in my head, but it leaves just as quick.
Wow.
Now, in the beginning, it wasn't like that. I would get the thoughts and I would entertain them, like, well, if I have just one beer, I think I'll be okay.
Yeah.
But nowadays, it's not really like that. It's just...
Tell us really quick, we're whizzing by, but tell us briefly, I've always wondered about the 12-step program for people maybe don't know. I don't really know. I know, for me, I know, Alcoholics Anonymous for watching it on film and television and reading about it in books. But how does the drug it's called the 12-step program, right?
Yes.
How does that differ, or is that similar to the alcohol thing?
Yes, it is. It's because there's Narcotics Anonymous too, which is basically the same thing as AA,
right?
But it's called NA.
Okay.
The steps are identical except for one word.
Yep.
Drugs, alcohol. Okay, so besides that, the steps are absolutely the same.
Okay.
Now, you can get totally different vibes when you walk into an NA meeting than you would from an AA meeting.
Really?
It's different types of people. It's hard to explain.
So which one do you go to if you sort of have a problem with all of it?
I choose AA.
AA.
Yeah.
Oh, you do?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And is there a reason? Like, what is that difference in vibe?
Well,
just different types of people.
Yeah, not only that, but it's just what I was really brought to for the first time.
Okay.
And there were a couple NA meetings I went to. I just didn't feel like good vibes from them. Yeah. But I did go to one NA meeting back then that I did get good vibes for. So I used to go to both.
Right.
Until I moved to South Philly, then I kind of. Everything changed.
So, and again, in a nutshell, sorry, because we're almost out of time already, but so what is, how does it work? Like, it seems always so successful. Like, it seems to be something that works for people. What is it? Tell us about it and how it works real quick.
It's really about taking a good look at yourself in the mirror.
Okay.
And admitting that you were wrong, that you have a problem, first off, that you have a problem with drugs or alcohol.
Yep.
And looking at yourself and realizing that you can't control it, but you have to get a higher power who can help control your life. And then you have to look at yourself and like write down everything where you went wrong, everyone that you ever hurt.
Is this like in preparation to go to a meeting, or is this
these are
the meeting?
That's the 12 steps that I'm really talking about.
Okay.
To go to a meeting, you just pretty much just walk in.
But so the 12 steps, that's one of the 12 steps is the meetings?
No. You just walk into the meeting. You don't have to be doing the steps to go to the meeting.
Okay.
But the 12 steps are part of recovery.
So the 12-step program is literally like a writing program. You got to go through all these.
Yeah, you have to get a sponsor, and they kind of help you through each step. And you have to write a lot of stuff down. You have to go make amends to people. Wow. Tell them that you were wrong, and ask them how you can make things right. And it's getting a higher power.
So you do that one step at a time?
Yeah.
Kind of thing?
Yeah, one step
at a time. And you're sponsoring someone right now, a guy in Spain, is that right?
Yes, that's true, yes.
So how many people do you help?
I'm just sponsoring one person
Is that how it's done, like one person at a time?
No, you can sponsor multiple people at once, but just no one else asked me, so that's why.
And very, very quickly,
sure.
I just want to ask you, What's your favorite color?
My favorite color, green.
Green. Favorite book?
I think Killers of the Flower Moon.
Okay. But do you know who's that by? Do you remember?
I don't remember.
Killers
the
of the Flower Moon.
Yeah.
People can look that up.
I just read it a couple months ago. It was really good.
Favorite film or TV show?
The Office.
The Office. Okay,
Yes.
interesting. Pet hate?
Pet hate?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't hate any pets.
No. I mean, no. You know what I mean by pet hate. I know you got pets. I just mean, what's something that really bugs you?
When my pets poop on the floor.
Okay, all right. Favorite country other than America, or that you would like to visit?
Ooh, Australia.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
Have you been there?
No.
On your bucket list?
I want to, yeah.
Okay. I just had to throw that at the end of it because it's something I would like to ask you. But thank you so much. Here it is, The Struggle. Thank you so much, Brian, for joining us today. Fascinating story on a really, really tough subject. You can find The Struggle 10 years later at whichever bookstore or website you use for your books. Finally, and in honor and celebration of the life of Queen Elizabeth II, please enjoy this non-fiction royal and local history series memoir of my great aunt Florence Bramford, who travelled the world on royal tours under 2 Queen Elizabeths for 30 years, from cottage to palace, is book 1 in the Worcestershire and Malvern History series. Thank you so much, Brian. Cheerio. See you next time.